This week on the show, we're joined by Marcello DePascale, a financial planner at Barnum Financial Group, who focuses on medical professionals, helping them with their unique cash flow, investment needs, and more. He's here to share his experience in the field and his overall career in the financial service industry. I'm Paul Blanco, and this is Small Steps, Big Wins. All right, Marcello, welcome to Small Steps, Big Wins. I'm so happy to have you here, and I'm very fortunate today to have someone face-to-face. I do probably 80% of these via Zoom, so I'm happy to have you here in the studio today.
Thank you so much for having me. It was an honor to be asked, Paul.
Well, you got it. You've accomplished so much in this career, and I know you have a lot of great things to share with the audience. So let's start with the beginning. I mean, I'm guessing right now, but you're probably almost in the business 20 years now, right?
Yeah, we're 16 years, going on 17. Yeah.
So
went by very quickly.
Yeah. So tell me how you ended up in the business and how what was your journey to become a financial advisor to start?
Yeah, I think, when I go back and I look, it all seems kind of like a blur, but I think it goes back to just childhood, things that happened. I'm a child of Italian immigrants. Parents came here, did the American dream, built their business. A lot of good, a lot of things that happened that were wonderful. I know and I don't talk too much about it, but we had a little bit of a tough time growing up. My brother was sick for a long time. He had leukemia and passed away. And then my father the next year said he wasn't feeling so hot, and a year later he passed away as well from a different form of cancer. So sitting there, I'm 11 years old. My older brother's 20. And I watched my mom, go back to work and just grind. And my brother was ready to come back from college, and he was ready to drop everything. And my mother said, "The door is locked. You're finishing university." So I kind of watched how hard she worked. And for all the good they did, I saw that there was a lot of planning that just wasn't done, for no other reason, best of intentions, but it wasn't done the right way. So honestly, I didn't know exactly then that this is what I wanted to do, but I knew that I wanted to be on the right path to help people to never have what we kind of went through. So I think that's my why. And then I can tell you more about what ended up happening, how I actually ended up here as we go, I'm sure.
Yeah. I mean, well, that's pretty heavy stuff at 11 years old. Yeah. And for you to watch that, and I'm sure that it gives you great strength today to think about all the lives you're impacting. Yep. And making sure that doesn't happen. But go deeper. What happened then? So you're 11, you go to college.
Yeah. So, the first thing that I kind of noticed is that we didn't have some of the planning things, and I didn't know it other than we were getting by, we, more fortunate than some other people maybe, but, so kind of threw yourself into always doing good academically, doing good in sports, which I think helps a lot with, this career. So kind of the focus of, all right, I'm going to get to college. I'm going to do well. I'm going to come out and I'm going to, help out the family. I'm going to provide for everybody. So that was always, in my mind and focused. Simultaneously, we have a family business that is, my uncles and cousins here. So I would dip in and help them. I started getting interested in the books a little bit. And so when I went to college, I knew it was going to be for business. I knew it was going to be finance oriented. So I went to Fairfield University, which was great school.
Yeah, go Stags.
Yeah, go Stags. Yeah,
so some graduates.
Yeah, so Paulie and me, we share that. So, and actually, we brought Julian on, our newest financial advisor, and he's a Stag too.
Oh,
so
nice.
Yeah. So, and when I was there, I just kind of dove in. At the time, it didn't seem fortunate, but I was very fortunate. I got an internship. I worked down at Merrill Lynch in Stanford on a team there, and I was there a year during the financial crisis. So I watched people that had established businesses and careers. I was sitting there stuffing envelopes and making phone calls, and I was watching people get walked out of the office. I mean, just what seemed at the time like the worst possible time to be in it. But I look back now and I'm like, wow, what a time to be in it. It was the best time to be in it because things were in flux. And a couple of years later, people were willing to listen to a 22-year-old kid where they might not have been.
Yeah, and I always talk about. I think in my 35-year career, I've seen 5 of those of the 10 bad days.
Yep.
And our business has always grown afterwards so much from that because clients just need more help when that happens. So yeah, it's really good that you got to recognize that. Some of our best advisors were started in those years.
Yeah.
So it's really awesome. So now you get out, you come in.
Yep.
you want to be in this business. Would you say you were, this is a question I'm starting to ask more, because as I look at the career today as a financial advisor, you're really running your own, you have your own business.
Oh, yeah.
And, you talked about how your uncle had a business, but you do. But I want to ask, and I'm going to give you my answer,
okay.
But I'd love to hear yours. I wonder today, should we be bringing in people that are entrepreneurial or that want to be financial advisors?
Mm-hmm.
And would you say you thought you were an entrepreneur at that time, or you really just wanted to be an FA and you've grown into an entrepreneur?
I don't know that I would have been able to vocalize that I wanted to be an entrepreneur, but I can fully credit you. And I think it from the appreciation I have for you. I had two roads to go down there, right? I could have been just a normal staff person at Merrill there, or I came in here and I just got a buzz. There was a feeling of what was happening here, where you were kind of giving us you come here and you're going to win and we're going to win together. Yep. And you're going to own what you have, versus that route. While it can work for some people, you're not going to own anything. So I had that in me. And I know that I've always had that. To kind of answer what you're asking, I've come to realize that we need to have a mix of people.
Yeah.
And I think Chuck and I, through a lot of hard lessons learned, right? I think we realized that you go with an open heart, you try to bring in good people that are aligned with your values and your morals. And we don't hold anybody under our thumb. If they come in and they choose to be a part of the team, even if they're successful, they'll continue to be. And if they decide they're going to move on, then they're going to move on. And that's all right. We're grateful for the lessons learned together. But I think the right mix for staff is people that want to, work towards the team, work towards the eventual goal of the greater amount. But, you can't have everybody be entrepreneurs. Otherwise it doesn't work.
Yeah, I agree. But it's interesting though that, when you're 22, I had an entrepreneurial flair. I wanted my own business. So when I got in, it took a couple of years to realize that if I treat it like my own, it'll be my own.
Yeah.
Right. And today it truly is. And I think some of the public, we still need people that are great advisors, but the best advisors are building a distribution model with teaming and getting the right people in the right seats, like you just said.
Yeah.
But you need someone to lead it, and they have to think of it as a business, not just as a planner.
Yeah,
which is very different than what it used to be.
Way different. I mean, just how much things have changed in my years here, especially the last 5 or 6 years with COVID. I mean, just the whole industry has changed. Yeah.
Which is really awesome. So let me ask you a question. So you have this why at a really young age, and you watch now fast forward, you're 22, 23, you're in the business, you have a little experience watching, the financial crisis as an intern, and you start to meet with clients. How is your mindset because of what you experience versus, many advisors are grabbing onto a story they might have heard in the office or something, maybe not reality for them, but they lived it through someone else. How did that affect you early on in your career?
I think it's different when you've lived through it, right? It's the old empathy versus sympathy kind of thing. So when I was able to actually look at somebody's plan or see what they were doing, I not only saw the mistakes that were being made and kind of tried to guide them, but I tried to explain the impact and the feelings when the worst does happen. Things aren't organized right. Your portfolio is wrong. You don't have the right insurances. You don't have your estate plan, and I think the conviction, I mean, there's certain things that just come through, right? Like that can't be faked, and somebody can feel it off of you. And I think that for my, for the successes that I've had with the things that are good about me, I think my strongest trait has always been my ability to connect with people, and they feel that empathy and that truth off of me. More so than any portfolio or intellect or anything else I have. That's my skill. There's smarter people, but there's nobody else I think that feels for the clients the way that I do.
Yeah, I see that and agree. And I think we'll never know this, but I think that even if you didn't have the why, you would still be that person. I think the why has just made it even more exponential because you can lean back on that, and to I'll butcher the quote, but I read this to my leadership team on Monday. It was, the best financial plans are the plans that don't need you to execute it.
Yeah.
if you're needed to execute it, then it's not a good plan. Because
Yeah.
that means if you're not here,
someone can pick it up and run with it.
right?
Yeah.
So that, and that's what you're doing for clients.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think our team approaches everything that way. It's about the client, what's best for them, and we'll be a guide, and we'll tell them when, if they're hesitant on things, we'll tell them what the consequences are. And as long as they understand and they have full transparency, then, we can sleep at night knowing that,
Yeah, which is amazing. So let's talk about that teaming / mentoring, joint work. I can look back on people's careers that I've worked with and say there's a couple of things that have impacted them. I feel like early on in your career, really early on, you surrounded yourself with some people, Chuck Height being one of them, who you partnered with formally and now is your partner for many years.
Yep.
But what did that mean to you, having those mentors / partners to work with early in the early part of your career?
I think there's nothing more important. Any young advisor that comes and asks us now, what I would suggest to do, it's always find somebody that you feel you align with, in terms of morals and values, and, ask them if they'll show you everything, and you bring them whatever couple clients you have as sort of the exchange of payment. Because it meant so much to me, So, I mean, first I worked for a while with our friend Steve McGurk, and he was wonderful for showing me how to run an appointment. You could have all of this knowledge, but if you don't know how to communicate it to somebody, it's not worth anything.
Yeah.
And then Chuck and I found each other shortly after that. And again, I don't mean to be heaping you with compliments, but I thank you for so many things. I think you saw early on that I had a lot of energy and I had a lot of possibility, but I needed somebody to kind of bring me in and reel me in. And Chuck was the perfect fit for that.
I was thinking impatient.
Yeah. Impatient. So very, yeah. The 38-year-old me would probably call the 22-year-old impatient at this point. But, and I think for that reason, we ended up being wonderful for each other, because I'd pull him on certain things and then he brings structure on other things. And it's been, apart from my marriage with my wife, it's been, the best relationship I've had.
Yeah. Which is pretty amazing. And you think of it as, you come in with no intent, right? Mm-hmm. You meet, and then you're aligned. And what you said earlier, I always say the same thing. If values are aligned, great things can happen. And that's what happened. And you guys had complementary skills.
Yeah.
But it's interesting because we think of teaming in our business as making sure we have complementary skills, maybe on the planning side. Mm-hmm. But back to our earlier statement on the entrepreneur / how you run the business, you have to have complementary skills with each other too.
Yes. And
that's something you had. And I think diversity of thought is a big deal in today's world. And some people just forget about that.
Absolutely. And I wouldn't undermine the importance of having a little friction. I mean, that's what makes things great. I think that's helps us kind of push forward and kind of stretch our boundaries on things. And so it's been great for all these years, even through the highs and the lows, we've been there for each other, and we've decided what we're going to do and what we're not going to do. And I think that thankfully years later, we're seeing the results of it now.
Big time. And you guys are in the top 0.5% of the industry now, and really at the ground floor of where you're going.
Yes.
And we'll get into that in a minute. Well, and then the next thing that as I look through your career, and please take it, if there's something I'm not bringing up that you want to, please do. But, we started a program back here, probably, holy mackerel, it's probably like 12 years ago, 13 years ago, where we went into the disability space.
Sure. Yeah.
And one of the pieces of it was, we went into the medical market, and we had 2 programs going simultaneously. There was about 6 or 7 advisors that were involved, and you gravitated to it and really stood in it. Mm-hmm. And, if it was 12 years ago, it might be, you're still there.
Yep.
And, I shared this a little in Chuck's episode, which will be out shortly. But when I think of the business, finding a target market that you could be referable in is the ultimate.
Yeah.
And, whatever many years later, you've created that. So why don't you kind of share how that happened and what your thoughts are, and, what, if you were starting out in the business today, how that impacted you.
I'd like to say there was a grand design and a plan, but the truth is that I was doing the things that, here they encourage you to do. We were making phone calls, and I'd come back here and put a lot of hours in. Those first 4 or 5 years are the most important. And I was grinding, making phone calls. I think it might've been an insurance, lead from an old employer. And I called this one gentleman who is a client still to this day. And he said, he said, sure, we can have a meeting. He thought it was nice on the phone. So met with him. He was a certified registered nurse anesthetist. So you have the anesthesiologist, and then they're the specialized nurse side of the world here. And so I met with him, and we had a really great meeting. We kind of hit it off. And at the end of it, he told me, hey, I only gave you the meeting because your last name was Italian, and so was he. So
I'll take it.
Yeah, that's it. So, from him, I can draw a line to, probably have over 500 anesthesiologists and CRNAs from that we work with either on the planning and asset management side, or we've done some form of business with. It took me 3 or 4 years of, I think Barnum is always great at putting the resources in front of you, and they'll keep on keeping you updated on what's happening, but it's up to you to eventually what actually sinks in and fits. So it's probably 3-4 years later where I was like, these are specialized medical people. They need occupation specific disability insurance. If anybody needs it, it's them, because if their back is hurt or they have arthritis in their hands or they can't do their job, we go from making $300,000, $400,000, $500,000, $800,000 to maybe nothing. Yep. So once that clicked for me, which took a few years, now I understand that, hey, I can speak to how valuable it is in this disability space. We must have this. This is as soon as you're coming out of school, which we do a lot of speaking at the universities as they're graduating. This is the first expense that we should put on ourselves. I know you're tackling debt and all these other things, but this is your ability to earn your living. And after 3 or 5 or 7 years of having no paychecks, it would stink to go start making a good amount of money and then have 0 paychecks again. Yep. So because of that, it's something that's just been bought into because I understand it and was able to rationalize. And from there, just the referrals that we have over the years, thankfully, it's just, there's always additional people in that space that need that kind of insurance.
Well, what's interesting is part of the story is you found a market that needed a product. Mm-hmm. Right, which was your door opener.
Yes.
But the market was big enough, number one, right? And so you could become referable. It's not like it was just 5 people. That's continued conveyor belt of people coming out of school and growing. The other thing is your access to them was getting them at a very young age, and they knew they needed this. So you were able to bring people into your planning process in their 20s and now follow them around until their
40s, 50s, and 60s.
And then the other thing, as I learned from you in the market, is they ultimately many of them start as an employee and then become an employer.
Correct.
And they become self-employed, which brings a whole other set of planning.
Oh, absolutely. And that their landscape in the medical world has changed so much that there are so many of them become independent contractors. So it opens up a whole nother world. We have, if I think back 10 years ago, we probably had 0 solo Ks. Now, we're probably at 100, individual people that are, providing medical, and they are running their own corporation. So, the planning has exploded, and we've grown together, and it's been wonderful. And it's nice that we were at that change at the same time, because it wasn't this known sort of setup. We were sorting things out while they were figuring it out. And then we were able to come up with a process that is now packaged and marketable to them. And so I think back and I kind of laugh now because, I was 23, 24. I started getting some momentum with some of the CRNAs and anesthesiologists here. And I had a referral down to Miami, which is where we have
I remember when you went down there.
Yeah, a pretty big. Yeah, you were very nice to help me out with accommodations the first trip, I remember. So, but, I think back now, and that one person I got referred to, I said, hey, if you can get 5 or 6 people together for me, I'll fly down. But I think back being, 23, 24, just hopping on a plane with, back then just the briefcase and the notepad and going and meeting people, and they all became clients, and I'm kind of proud of myself. I wonder now if I would have been so brave if I hadn't, been young and kind of brazen in that way. Yeah.
I think sometimes if you think things, someone asked me that question this morning and they said, what made you take all these risks? And I said, I don't even know if it was a risk at the time.
Yeah.
I think I just didn't know any different. And that's what you did. You were just hungry and focused, and, you were willing to turn over as many rocks as you can.
Absolutely. And Miami sounded good in February. So that was also
especially at 24, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But I was shut in just doing work. I kind of missed I had a couple nice dinners with clients. I think that was my going out and treating myself. So
I love it. Well, and the other thing that's important to know is when you're looking at a market, anyone that's listening to the call today, the thing that's important is making sure the size, but that they have the ability to grow.
Yeah.
And if you do the right thing, then they grow at you. What other things do you say as you look back now has really, springboarded your career to get you where you are today?
I think there's a lot of things. One thing that always stuck out to me that I thought helped a lot was that when I was working in my internship there, they used to have a sign up, the team I worked with there, and they said you should be spending 50 to 60% of your time just prospecting. But coming out of school with the finance degree, I thought I was going to be behind the trading board and, yeah. And I kind of really took that lesson to heart and thought, all right, I need to be going out there and meeting people, because it doesn't matter what I know if I don't have the people to meet with. So I know some people that can take a while, and sometimes it's too late. If it takes a couple of years and you don't have any business, then that's it. So I think that was a big help. I think you have to get over the mental, there will be rejection in the beginning. I didn't come from a big market that I knew I was going to have people built in. So I think that just getting over that rejection is going to be part of it. But the harder you work, there will be more yeses. And from there, you'll make yourself referable was the biggest mental hurdle to get over.
Yeah, it's great. When you think about rejection, there's a guy in the industry, Howard Wright, and I heard him speak. And he asked everyone in the room, does anyone have a dog? Mm-hmm. And all these people raised their hand, and he asked, what's happened when the doorbell rings? What's the dog do? Mm-hmm. Goes to the door. And he says, is it ever for him? Yeah. No. So don't take it personal. So anytime I was making calls or going out and a client didn't take my recommendation, I always remembered that and tried my best not to take it personal.
Absolutely.
That really, the dog story really helped me through that.
Yeah.
In my career.
Great.
Yeah. Let's fast forward now. When you think of your mindset, from that time where you picked up and went to Miami, or, that prospecting days, to your mindset today. Mm-hmm. Right. There's a saying, what got you here is not going to get you there. Right. And you look out your next 10 years. What is your mindset today, and what are you thinking about, and how are you thinking differently?
I used to think I'm just going to put as many hours in as I can. And the more hours I grind and the more hours I work, the more successful I'll be. And I think there's some of that is true, especially in the beginning there. Now I take the mentality of I only have so many hours to give. So how am I going to give them? Right. Who am I giving them to? And that's really, really important. That's a hard lesson to learn, because a few years ago, I was having a talk with one of the other advisors, Justin, here. And I said, it's hard when you have these clients that were really great clients, but they're not so much anymore. And you feel like you're not giving them the same amount of time. And he said, well, that's where you got to scale the business. You got to bring in somebody else to work with them. And as much as you may love them, you have to be able to provide a reasonable service model to them that fits the type of client they are at this point now. Yeah. So that was hard, I think, but that has changed a lot. We vet a little bit better to make sure that the clients and us are good fits, just, personality wise, and also just from what our AUM minimums are. And I will say, I pride myself on, no matter who they are, we'll always give them an initial appointment. And the goal is always to set them on a better way, whether we are a good fit to work together or not. So,
I love that. And the next place I was going is you're bringing on a new junior to your team.
Yep.
And from what I understand, that junior is going to be spending a lot of time with you in your market. Mm-hmm. Is that kind of what's going to happen there? And what's the vision with that?
I think so, except that he's exceptional and such a smart guy. He worked for a very big and well-known investment firm. He was on the other end of things and doing the trading side. So I think there will be an element of that. I think we're probably going to need another junior, because I think he's going to excel very quickly. I hope, so I think he's going to take on some larger and larger clients. But yes, I think that is, we're at the point here, I think back to when I was saying, I wish I could just have somebody to talk to when you first start.
Yep.
We have so many good clients here. I just can't get to everybody. So I think scaling the advisor base is going to be the most important thing for us to get where we want to go in the next 5 years.
Yeah. And I think that's the most important thing is, right, when you think about teaming, mm-hmm. in the industry, and, going back, say 25 years, it was basically the senior advisor got to 500 clients mm-hmm. and said, I don't have enough time for these 200. And I want to bring someone in to take on those 200. And then it just kept happening and happening and happening, right? As more clients came in, and you have this ability in this market to get referred more and more.
Sure.
So if you can scale yourself, what you're doing now, I think is a huge thing. Now, how long have you thought you needed this person in your mind?
We probably years, right? I mean, we had a couple that we tried and, didn't work, or they went on, and that's great. But the last 3 years specifically, we probably should have had this person in this role.
Yeah.
But we've expanded. We have additional, assistants, and our team is great. Casey, Sarah, Kayla, Julian now, and we're in such a good space. And I have to say, the programs and some of the technology we really embraced, I think, has made us way more efficient so we can see more people.
Isn't that great?
Yeah. I mean, the AI notes and between Teams and Zoom, I mean, game changer. I mean, the amount of I was so happy that got rolled out, because the amount of time that saves post meetings now is enormous.
Well, I think that's a really good point. When you think of AI, right? And you think of some of the tools we use in B2 to help you see the right clients at the right time and have that right information, the note taking, using Zoom to see more people and be able to connect more, chat with your team and stuff like that. Someone asked the question yesterday, do you think AI is going to take over the business? And the answer is no. But what it is going to do is take advisors like you and your team and give you more time so that you can take care of more clients.
Absolutely.
And go back to your why. The more you get to be in your zone is going to be more effective for you and for the clients.
Yeah. People, you look throughout history, right? People fear change, but when you embrace it, there's always going to be a role there. It's it's going to help you become more efficient. So maybe our job will change a little, but there's always the human element of it. People want to have somebody that they can speak with and make sure the ideas make sense, So I think if you embrace it, I think that is going to help us these next few years. I think that's going to grow the business, 5x from where we are now.
I agree. I couldn't agree more with you. And I love change. I love technology. I'm not good at using it. I'm good at maximizing it. I understand how important it is to a business to grow us.
And you guys, I mean, Barnum and just being here, you guys embrace these things. And that's why it's the best place to be. I mean, and everywhere else that I've, seen from friends is that's not always the case, so.
Well, it's scary and it's a great industry. For the right person, and they also need the right start. And it's all the pieces of the puzzle, right? It's the values, it's the culture, it's the teaming, it's the mentoring, it's the mindset to grow. There's a lot of pieces that go into it. And you're embracing all of those. So the one thing I will say, and this is just a side note for people, when we used to talk about people hiring their first assistant, we would always say, and you probably do this with your docs, we always say to them, when you think about it, you're already late. Right. So for many of you that are planning for 26 now, if you think you need to add anything to your team in terms of people, get doing it now.
Do it.
Because it's going to take a long time to find on board. And if you were really trying to bring someone on today for 26, you're probably 6 months later ready to make them effective to affect that plan. And I think that's really important as we continue to grow our businesses.
So important. Should have made certain steps. You look back and there's certain steps you should have made more quickly. And that's one that, I can say do it immediately, because it is going to help you and free you up to do so much more other, so many other things that will add value to your business.
It sounds like I know the answer to this, but your favorite part, I think, is being in front of the client, correct?
Yeah. Helping them get to their goals or identify their goals and then watching over time. And, truthfully, we talk obviously about their finances. I'm very much, I think like you, it's about that personal relationship. And I think the amount of people that I am now friends with, or there are part of our family, and seeing them hit those goals is just, it's a success that we feel, on behalf of them. So being with them in that way, spending personal time with them, and started to realize that is honestly with your, especially your top clients, you got to make sure you like them. You can't work with somebody that you don't like. But most importantly is if they become friends and family, you want to spend all that time with them. Being with them to talk about their finances is wonderful, but spending personal time with them, that's the most important thing.
I love it. Well, this has been amazing, Marcello. Thank you.
Thank you.
Let's talk about something that I, as a leader from the outside looking in, I always felt like you've done a really good job of taking the owner benefits of the business, meaning having your own business and your own time, to make sure that you've kept some sort of balance in your life. And, and I feel like you did that at a younger age. Talk about what you did and what you're doing today to kind of, because it's all about being the complete person. And I think you've done a better job than many on that.
Thank you. Yeah. I think, maybe not so much those first, 3-4 years. But then, it's the old, if you don't take time to kind of sharpen the axe, you're swinging at the tree with the hammer to take a Steve McGurk line. I just started to realize that doing more hours wasn't making me a better advisor. And it was actually hurting the business. If you're going to be here, you're going to be here and you're going to be present. And then when you're away, you're away, and that's it. So I think the last 5-6 years, I've taken time to really structure out the weeks. We know when we have our team meeting. We know when I'm having appointments, when we don't accept appointments. We try our best to schedule things out. Vacations are set, at least 2-3 months ahead of time. We kind of know when things are that. And then on the flip side of that, and I'm sure talking with a lot of colleagues here and advisors, sometimes the hardest part is that when you're off, making sure that you stay off, which is hard when you're running and owning your business. I still am guilty of checking in the mornings and seeing how things are going.
That's okay, because balance is in the eye of the beholder.
Yeah, that's it. But I think that I have allowed myself to have faith in our team. And I think that's helped a lot, because I know that if something goes awry or somebody needs attention, when I'm away, the team takes care of it, and vice versa. We've hired such wonderful people that I, can't say enough great things about, that sometimes I find when they're away, which sometimes we have to nudge them to take time. When they're checking in, I have to tell them, you're away. We are not responding to you. So I think drawing that distinction is important, just as for myself, but also just set an example for everybody else.
Well, and I also think that you're not wrong in what you said, is if you can get more time to yourself, you can be more creative, you can think differently and go. So last question of the day, what's next?
What's next is, when I look at our team, I feel like we're just getting started.
You are.
I feel like it was a lot of years to just get started, but I see us expanding our business significantly. The goal is in the next 3 years to double the current AUM. I think we're going to hopefully in that time frame be a $5 million team by that point. And then looking forward 5-6 years from now, $10 million goal. I think continuing to work with the people that are a good fit for us, helping our clients and not just bringing on scale, but also making sure that we're delivering on the value props, delivering on what it is that we promise we're going to do for people.
Love it. Well, Marcello, congratulations on your success. It's unfortunate what you experienced at a young age, but when you think of the job of the advisor and being the impact you can make on people's lives, you're living that every day, and you're giving so much to your clients. And I know that, your family is super proud of that.
Thank you.
That's an impact that not every career gets to do. So thank you for doing that.
Appreciate
because, I always say I struggled with that, leaving the field and coming into leadership, which was the right role for me. Mm-hmm. But I just love being with the end user like you do. And now seeing other people do it is just very rewarding for me. And you're doing it in spades. So
thank you. And thank you, Paul, and, and Mindy and Joe and everybody here. I mean, you do it with us, you might not do it with the clients, but you do it with us as advisors. And, we feel, I feel like I'm part of the family, for years now. So,
well, thank you. Thank you. And everybody have a great day. Yep. Check us out on Apple, check us out on Spotify, Small Steps, Big Wins, and, listen so you can grow your practice just like all these other people are doing. So everybody have a great day. Thank you for listening to Small Steps, Big Wins. Please rate, review, and subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to your podcasts.
All opinions expressed by the program participants are solely their current opinions and do not reflect the opinions their respective parent companies or affiliates or the companies with which the program participants are affiliated. Investments or strategies mentioned in this program may not be suitable for you, and you should make your own independent decision regarding them. This material does not take into account your particular investment objectives, financial situation, or needs, and is not intended as recommendations appropriate for you. You should strongly consider seeking advice from your own investment advisor. Securities and investment advisory services offered through qualified registered representatives of MML Investor Services, LLC. Member SIPC, 6 Corporate Drive, Shelton, Connecticut, 06484, telephone number 203-513-6000.